Now, while I was in Davos, I bumped into climate activist Greta Thunberg. As I said earlier, I went out to Davos with the Rebel News guys in a personal capacity, and my expenses were crowdfunded. I got the chance to ask Greta a few questions. Here's what she had to say. It's your opportunity to stop and tell us what you care about and what you're fighting against. You seem to be joining the establishment, not fighting them anymore. Are you not one of them?
One of who?
What, the people on the private jets and the helicopters flying in here to tell us how to live our lives?
Yes, because I have many private jets of my own, yes.
The point being, you have to condemn all of them equally, otherwise it's hypocrisy, right? No? I don't see how that's funny.
I don't take anything seriously, so I laugh all the time, so don't take it personally.
Okay. Greta, do you make an opportunity to listen to different voices and opinions that differ from your own? Do you try and take challenge on board when it comes to climate?
Sure.
Every time a Western government implements a net zero policy, it's common folk that are suffering, especially in a cost of living crisis. Do you have anything to say on that?
Yeah, it's horrible that people are being affected by different things, like example, the climate crisis and so on. People are being displaced and losing their lives. It's horrible.
But they can't afford to eat or heat their homes because of the net zero policies.
Yeah, that's definitely why we are experiencing the cost of living crisis, yes.
I agree, thank you. Is the movement not turning people away from your cause? The tactics that are being employed? Do you agree with all the radical tactics people are taking in your name?
I think the only one taking action in my name is me, I hope.
But you are the leader of this movement.
I hope not. Thank you, this has been a pleasure. We're gonna leave now. We would appreciate if you didn't follow.
Thank you. Thanks, Greta.
Thank you.
As you can tell, I had a lovely time in Davos. This week we saw the return of the annual World Economic Forum meeting in Davos, with politicians and business leaders from around 130 countries descending on the Swiss town. However, with global leaders increasingly seeking to influence the policies of sovereign countries on everything from the economy to climate change, there are concerns that governments have less and less power over the affairs of their own country. So should the World Economic Forum supersede state sovereignty? Former advisor to President Trump and lecturer at Hillsdale College, Michael Anton, joins me now. Thank you for joining us this Sunday, Michael. Could you start off by telling us a bit about the history of the WEF and the power it does and does not have?
I don't know the history specifically. I think it started sometime in the late 70s. I know that Klaus Schwab, who founded it, is an economics professor in Germany and used to attend some of the other more secretive conferences like Bilderberg that used to be, and still are to some extent, considered by conspiracy theorists, rightly or wrongly, as hubs of globalist intrigue. And Klaus Schwab's great insight was, well, we can actually do better. Instead of let's have the same conference, but instead of making it secret, let's invite the press and let them cover it and let them write glowing stories about it. And let's, open it up to sort of sunshine. And maybe we can tamp down some of the conspiracy theories, but also with the glowing press, get much more global momentum or public support for our movement. And it's funny to me, or it's certainly telling, that I think it's been, from his perspective, a complete success, that Davos has now for 20 years, the World Economic Forum, been sort of the place to go, see and be seen and meet other people and expand your influence. There's hardly a CEO or a world leader that isn't there every year, or at least that hasn't been in the last 2 or 3 years. It's the kind of thing where if you don't go, you're really not part of the ruling cabal of the world. So while I disagree with most of its goals, I have to give Schwab and the WEF people credit that they set out to create the world's kind of most important consequential conference, and they did it.
Yeah, I mean, the WEF themselves would say that they're trying to promote world peace and cooperation between different nations. Surely that's a good thing.
Well, yeah, the cooperation toward what ends and on whose terms. So, I just watched a clip where you were talking about climate change, right? Well, yeah, they want cooperation. They want cooperation to, as they put it, fight climate change, to bring global emissions down. But that's also cooperation to cut the energy sector, to lower standards of living, to, make it more difficult to travel, and so on and so forth. So cooperation from their point of view ends up meaning a very constricted lifestyle from the point of view of a lot of other people who, of course, don't get invited to these meetings, never will get invited to these meetings, and really have no say as to what goes on. But when you have, the leading corporate CEOs from the United States, Europe, the Far East, mingling with world leaders, heads of state, heads of government, these people have a lot of power to cooperate and get their way regardless of what any of the rest of us actually think. And that's what makes the World Economic Forum, I think, a danger to, certainly, I don't want to speak for your country, but to the way of life that my country has been accustomed to for many decades, if not longer.
Perhaps not literal power, but a lot of influence. Schwab talks about penetrating the cabinets of people all around the world. But is it not right that Donald Trump opposed this agenda?
Donald Trump opposed this agenda, but the only time I've ever been to Davos, ironically, was in 2018 with Donald Trump. And he got a very friendly reception because he took a Davos-friendly message to Davos. That is to say, he was certainly against them on the climate change question. He was against them on the migration question. On many other things, he had a sort of anti-Davos agenda. But he was also very pro-business, and he wanted to make the case that America was a great place to invest, to open factories, and so on. And that's the message that he brought to Davos in 2018. And he didn't say any of the many critical things that I think he could have said, and so was received in a friendly way by Schwab himself and by the rest of the audience. It's a difficult fine line to walk for an American president or anyone interested in developing the American economy. You don't want to cut yourself off from these powerful figures, corporate CEOs and so on. You don't want to have bad relations with the other countries of the world, including with leaders of those other countries that maybe don't share your agenda, but you also don't want to abandon your agenda. And Trump, I think, walked it reasonably well. But now we have a completely different administration in the United States that I would say is more or less fully aligned with the Davos agenda. And there isn't really a whole lot of pushback or resistance to it anymore, either here or around the world.
Yeah, it's a great shame. I think Trump played the game very well there. Thank you for that analysis. That was former advisor to President Trump and lecturer at Hillsdale College, Michael Anton.